Today, we're going to get into the truly tragic and, frankly, deeply disturbing case of Tom and Jackie Hawks. They were a couple who had finally achieved their dream retirement on a beautiful yacht they called the Well-Deserved, only to see it turn into an absolute nightmare.
These words you see here, these are from Jackie Hawks herself, recorded on her own camera just days before she and her husband Tom disappeared. They were so full of hope, so excited for what was next, with absolutely no idea of the pure evil that was about to walk right into their lives.
So to really understand the gravity of what was lost, we've got to start with who Tom and Jackie were. Their story is one of love, of hard work, and a shared dream that they had finally beautifully made real.
So here's their story in a nutshell. Tom and Jackie meet back in '86. Get married a few years later, they raised 2 sons. And once the boys were grown, they did something a lot of us only dream about. They sold their house, saved up every penny, and in 2002, they bought a yacht, the Well-Deserved, to live out their retirement sailing up and down the coast. And they did it. For 2 whole years, they lived that dream. But in 2004, they got some incredible news that changed everything. They found out they were going to be grandparents. And for Jackie, who couldn't have her own biological children, this was just everything. So they made a new plan: sell the boat and move back to land to be close to their new grandchild. But this is where their beautiful dream takes a very dark turn. The sale of their beloved boat wasn't going to lead them to a new home. It was going to lead them straight into a baffling and truly terrifying mystery. Tom and Jackie called their sons, just thrilled, to tell them they'd found a buyer. They said the sale would be done in a few days and they'd be in touch. But then, just silence. Days start ticking by, no calls, they're not answering their phones, which for this really close family was completely out of character. So Tom's brother, who happens to be a retired police chief, goes to check on the yacht. And the little things he sees immediately scream that something is very, very wrong. The whole boat was a mess. Now, Tom was meticulous. He never would have left ropes hanging over the side or left the controls uncovered. For his brother, it was crystal clear. This boat was no longer in the hands of its loving owners. Tom's brother leaves a note, and pretty soon he gets a call from a woman named Jennifer DeLeon. She says, yeah, she and her husband just bought the boat. And her story at first seems pretty plausible. She said the Hawks took the cash, got into their SUV, and just drove off, mentioning something about heading to Mexico to buy a house near their family. But here's the massive hole in that story. The family's financial manager confirms it. Not a single large deposit had been made into any of the Hawks' bank accounts. I mean, if you just got nearly $500,000 in cash, wouldn't the first thing you do be to put in the bank? It just made no sense. Okay, so with Tom and Jackie now officially reported missing, the police start digging into the new owners of the yacht, the DeLeons. And they very quickly discovered this isn't just some simple young couple buying a boat. The husband, Skylar DeLeon, he's only 25 years old. And a quick background check immediately throws up a giant red flag. He's a convicted felon who's already done time for armed robbery. All of a sudden, this case started to look a whole lot more sinister. So when the police ask Skylar how a 25-year-old with a record could afford such an expensive boat, his story just crumbles. First, he claims he was a child actor on the Power Rangers TV show. Then, he completely changes his tune, confessing that the cash was actually stolen drug money he needed to launder. The lies were just piling up. But the thing that completely blew his alibi out of the water was when police found the Hawks SUV. It was in Mexico, yeah. But it wasn't abandoned. It had been given to one of Skylar's friends. You see the problem? How could Skylar give away the very car that he claimed he last saw the Hawks driving away in? He was caught in an undeniable lie. A search of the DeLeons' home pretty much sealed the deal. Police found the Hawks' personal laptops, their video cameras, and a bunch of other personal items, things a couple would never, ever leave behind if they were just moving. The connection was clear as day. Skylar was arrested. So even with all this evidence mounting, Skylar is still claiming he's innocent. So police decide to turn up the pressure on the other people who were involved in this supposed sale. And the first domino to fall was the notary. Under some really intense questioning, she just broke down and confessed everything. She admitted she'd never even met Tom and Jackie. Skylar had paid her in cash to backdate the sales documents, which were already signed. The entire transaction was a complete fraud.
So armed with a notary's confession, the police bring in another accomplice, a guy named Alonzo Mason. When they confront him, show him they know he's lying, and offer him a deal if he cooperates, he finally caves. He's ready to tell them exactly what happened.
And what Alonzo revealed was just chilling. You see, when Tom, who was a former probation officer, first met Skylar and his crew, his gut instinct kicked in. He was hesitant to go out on a sea trial with them. So Skylar calls his pregnant wife, Jennifer. She shows up with their baby, and the sight of them just immediately put Tom and Jackie at ease. The trap was set.
Once they were far out at sea, the horrific plan unfolded. Skylar and his accomplices attacked Tom and Jackie, overpowering them, handcuffing them. They forced them to sign over the title to the boat and give them power of attorney to access their bank accounts. And then they took them to the back of the boat, bound them together, tied them to the heavy anchor, and threw it overboard.
But in a final, quiet act of incredible defiance, while she was being forced to sign those documents, Jackie intentionally left the S off her last name. It was such a small thing, but it was a powerful signal, a clue left for the future that she was signing this against her will. With the horrifying truth finally revealed, the focus turned to making sure every single person involved was held accountable for this absolutely unspeakable crime. And it became chillingly clear that Jennifer DeLeon wasn't just some pawn used to lure the Hawks. No, she was a master manipulator. In fact, investigators believe the whole twisted scheme was her idea, born out of a desperate greed for a life they hadn't earned. She wasn't a passive participant. She was the architect on shore, orchestrating the whole thing by phone with Skylar, before, during, and after the murders. In the end, justice was served. For his cooperation, Alonzo Mason received a 20-year sentence. Jennifer DeLeon was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And for their roles in these brutal murders, both Skylar DeLeon and the third accomplice, John Kennedy, were sentenced to death. But maybe the single most chilling detail to come out of this entire case was this. When police recovered the Hawks video camera, they found that Skylar and Jennifer had taped over Tom and Jackie's final happy video memories to film themselves enjoying Thanksgiving dinner just days after committing murder. It's a final haunting testament to their profound and truly disturbing lack of humanity.